With us now from Phoenix in Arizona is Pinal County Sheriff and Trump surrogate Paul Babeu. Sheriff, thanks for joining us. What do you expect to hear from both sides out of this meeting between Donald Trump and the Mexican president?
Well, this is a good sign, I believe. There's a lot of talk, a lot of emotion on both sides for a very good reason. Our border is not secured. I can give you firsthand proof of that. Being here in Arizona, we have had 80,000 to 123,000 illegal immigrants who have come across this border every year for the last 3 years, and that's just this part of the border. We're fighting drug cartels, and then the far more important concern is ISIS and the potential for terrorist threats. So I think with Donald Trump going to Mexico, it shows that he's acting as a leader. He has differences of opinions, but going there respecting the sovereignty of both countries and the rule of law. So I think this is a good sign. I think it starts to, in law enforcement, we try to de-escalate things. I think this is very appropriate, and a lot could be gained from this.
Sheriff, you heard a moment ago Hillary Clinton calls this a photo op. What would you say to critics who would look at this meeting in which there was not traveling press accompanying to report on what actually transpires at that meeting? What would you say to critics who view this as just a photo op?
Well, the president of Mexico actually sent this invitation out to both Donald Trump and to Hillary Clinton. So he actually responded the same way as with the storms down south. He went down there for that to show, because it's not only symbolism, it's responding, it's acting on the most important issues of the day. Clearly, this is an important issue. I think we need to talk about Mexico as our good neighbor and the good relationship we have in sharing economic ties. They're one of our top trading partners, and not to villainize them. So I think this is very helpful for our political discussion here in the United States.
And let me just ask you this, because voter registration in Maricopa County, the state's most populous, it's next door to yours, is up for Democrats and Republicans. However, for Democrats, it's up some 13%, and for Republicans, it's up roughly 7.5%. Are you concerned that Donald Trump's rhetoric could risk putting Arizona in the Democratic column for the presidency for the first time? Because while it's mobilized Republicans, it has mobilized Hispanic Americans and Democrats as well.
Well, I think it's important to note we're all Americans. 30% of the people in my county who are my boss are Hispanic, most of Mexican descent. These are good, decent, hardworking people, most of which are American citizens. And I do believe Donald Trump will win Arizona and outside the margin of error. And so here we see a lot of this back and forth. People want the border secured, and I think that this further clarification about what exactly we're going to do, if we target the criminal illegals, that small minority that have committed violent crimes, deport them, and then I think you're going to hear tonight Donald Trump talk more clearly about exactly what the 11 million immigrants who are here illegally, allowing them to stay, allowing them to contribute and to work here, but without citizenship or the right to vote.
As you know, Sheriff, some of the fiercest critics, though, against Mr. Trump have been conservatives who feel that perhaps this quote-unquote softening by Mr. Trump signals in some way, shape, or form what they would view as amnesty. What would you say to those core supporters who hear and see now his action of Mr. Trump traveling across the border to meet with Mexico's president before making this speech?
Well, I would say and ask people to consider that this is not amnesty at all. And because amnesty is what happened in 1986 with Ronald Reagan, actually gave full amnesty, meaning citizenship. Important to note, almost 40% of them didn't even accept it. And so what we're talking about here is the 11 million plus immigrants who are here illegally, that giving them permanent status here, but it doesn't include citizenship.
Some critics might say, Sheriff, that if in fact you break the rule of law is something that is important here in the United States. And for some critics, as you well know, they will hear that and believe that is not a right outcome, that for people who have violated the laws of the United States, that would amount to not punishing them.
Well, here it's about paying a fine, assimilating, paying taxes, being here in a legal status, and I think that's not only far more reasonable, you keep in perspective, we have 1 million almost legal immigrants every year, far more than any country in the world. And so this is a proud history of our nation as a nation of immigrants. It's our strength. And this doesn't defy that in the least. In fact, I think that this is a very good step forward. And then all of us can look to agree, secure the border, target those criminal illegals and get them out of the country, and then let's have a reasonable approach for those people, those families who do live here, for them to stay here.
So the deportation force then, Sheriff, in your view, is a deportation force feasible?
No, we're not going to have a deportation force. Well, what we have is a border patrol. And their job is to secure the border and to enforce the law. And I think when we focus on securing the border and actually enforcing the law, because the laws apply to you and me, yet when it comes to illegal immigration, this is truly the case, because we have 3,000 Border Patrol agents right here, and I work with them every day. And right now, the law is not being enforced. And so what we want is to have enforcement of the law, and so this all has to be fixed.
And those are important points that you make, Sheriff, and you, as someone who works in Pinal County, you deal with this on a daily basis. So to be clear,
yes,
you do not support the deportation force that Donald Trump had mentioned multiple times while campaigning. Instead, you're speaking of a path to legalization or some type of legal status for those who do not have criminal records and would follow some kind of procedure. This would be a middle ground.
Yes, I think what we're talking about is permanent legal status here. That does not mean citizenship or the right to vote. They're paying taxes. They're contributing. And I think that's reasonable. What we have to stop is the outright release has gone on for just in the last 3 years alone under this administration. There has been a release of 84,000 criminal illegals. These are people, they've been released right in my county, hundreds of them, some of which have committed murder, have committed sexual assault and rape, have committed other heinous crimes, and many of which, it's important to say, are not even Hispanic. I had a Russian murderer released into my county, and ICE didn't even tell me until 2 weeks after the fact. What do we think is going to happen when these individuals are released and we can't even deport them? Bad things are going to happen.
It's great to speak with you about this, and you raised some valid points there. And we should note that President Obama has deported more undocumented immigrants than President Bush or President Clinton before him. But Pinal County Sheriff Paul Babeu, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me on.